has some handyman qualities. So, can you open that bathroom door?
It's not shut.
Yeah, there's some issue with the knob, so we have opened it in the past. But what we need to do today is, while not in use, let's not close it all the way. Let's only like,
I don't think anyone's in there. I think it's been...
No, when you're inside you can get out just fine. Just
Yeah.
when you close it from the outside all the way, it's hard to open it again. Yeah. I do have a tool here. Okay.
You've got it on here, just in case.
The knife. Oh.
It's fine? It took a half hour yesterday.
He's a magician.
He's a real handyman.
Okay, so let's not close it all the way. That's basically that.
If anybody needs a handyman, this is the man.
He has a hand.
Anybody here for the first time today? Aha. Okay, so what we've just sung is kind of the welcome song when everybody arrives. We haven't actually started yet, so you haven't missed much.
Being on the lake, you get used to like nobody starts anything on time. So if you're like German about it and you arrive on time, it's like really awkward.
That's why we sing this song, because it makes it work.
But thank you arriving on time.
Actually, we don't sing this song for that reason. We sing a song for that reason. But we sing this particular song because it invokes the teachers. Right? When we start the practice, it's always nice to bring into the room to remind ourselves of all the teachers that came before us, that we can even imagine to stand behind us and that we receive empowerment and grace from at all times, if we allow it. So that is the purpose of the first song, calling upon Sri Nimkaroli Baba, that you might have heard of, the teacher of Ramdas and Krishnadas and many others. And Sri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, who is Amma, the hugging saint, and also Sri Ramana Maharshi, the great saint of Arunachala, one of the greatest non-duality masters of recent times. So those three we always invoke first.
Beautiful. Well, let us come to find our comfortable and stable seat. Keeping the back straight. The eyes are gently closed. Taking the time to prepare ourselves for the practice, to prepare ourselves to receive the mantras. Taking a moment to arrive right here, right now. Taking a moment to arrive in your body, to arrive on your seat. Taking a moment to arrive with your breath. Making sure the body is as relaxed as it could be. The top of the head is relaxed. The face and the jaw are relaxed. The neck and the shoulders are relaxed. The chest and the belly are relaxed, as well as the rest of the body. Top to bottom, the body is as relaxed as it could be. Noting even the slightest habitual tension and softening it, letting it go. Gently guiding the breath and the awareness to the center of the chest. breathing from the heart space, as if caressing the heart with each and every breath, ever so gently, ever so tenderly. Coming into resonance with the universal qualities of the heart. Coming into resonance with loving kindness, compassion, devotion, unconditional love, and forgiveness. We often carry so much around our hearts unnecessarily. Just take a deep breath into the heart, letting it go with a sigh. And another one. And the last one. Beautiful. Slowly with awareness, let us bring our cacao cups close to our hearts. Taking a moment to connect with this beautiful heart-opening medicine. Taking a moment to connect with the longings of your heart right now. What brought you here today? How can you take really, truly good care of your heart right now? What are the most sincere intentions of your being sitting here today? Feeling the earth always supporting us unconditionally and so generously from below, let us raise our cups high to the sky, remembering that we are the bridge between the earth and the heavens, and the Supreme Personality has no other hearts, hands, smiles, and voices but ours. What a privilege and what a beautiful responsibility. Enjoy your cacao fast or slow as you like. Today we have a pretty classic cacao, cinnamon, a little bit of salt, some sweetener, lots of love. Actually, Arjuna made half of the cacao today, but some interesting happening. So it is half made by Arjuna, half made by me. Both sparkles.
Which half?
Which half is which?
I'm the right
I don't
half.
know.
The right half.
He's the right half. I'm the left half. So a couple of people just arrived, right?
The one right
So
here.
2 cups of cacao. No? Would you like some cacao? Yeah. You know, the mantras, they're actually so incredibly powerful and completely kind of sufficient for us to have a beautiful heart-opening experience. But the thing is, as we know, we move through the world in such a busy and fast manner that it is helpful to have something like cacao to really anchor us, ground us back in the heart. We always read a poem or an inspirational quote to start with, and so we'll do today by Kabir. 44 of the ecstatic poems of Kabir. The darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind. Open the window to the west and disappear into the air inside you. Near your breastbone there is an open flower. Drink the honey that is all around that flower. Waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Listen. Sound of big seashells, sound of bells. Kabir says, friend, listen. This is what I have to say. The guest I love is inside me. So if this is your first Kirtan today, someone brought you along and you're like, what am I doing here today? What we are doing here today is we chant. We come back to this space of devotion that is often forgotten. This space in our hearts that is so direct, so immediate. And we dive straight into it through the power of the chant, through the power of our shared prayers. And so if you find yourself distracted, just come back to the heart again and again and again and again. Come back to the mantra, and this is all there is to it. We generally suggest to keep the eyes closed as much as possible. This is very helpful to go deeper into the heart, deeper into the mantra. And we might say some more things in between. We never know how it will go. To begin, we'll chant the invocation of the goddess. It is on these sheets right in the middle. If you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to grab a sheet. Calling upon the Great Mother, the one that manifests everything into existence. Manifests us in this body and manifests every tree and leaf and bird. Manifests every motorbike and every sound system, everything. We like to separate things sometimes in the mind, but it's not necessary. Everything is part of this creation. And so I chant this invocation 3 times together.
Please share the sheets. If you are not near a sheet, you can download our booklet, and it's in there. It's tiny.cc/mantra booklet.
German efficiency, everyone.
Sarvasya Tina Vichamunde, Jai Bhutati Harini, Jai Sarvate Devi, Alaratri Namostute. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sahasrike, Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Sristi Stiti Vinashanam Shakti Bhutte Sanatani Gunashraye Gunamaye Narayani Namostute. Sharanagatina Paritran Parayane Sarvasyati Haridevi Narayani Namostute. Kali Kali Mahakali Kali Deva Harini Dharma Kamprade Devi Narayani Namostute. Kali Kali Mahakali Kali Deva Harini Sarvayare Devi Narayani Namostute. Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute. Jai Tvam Devi Chamunde, Jai Bhutati Harini, Jai Sarvate Devi, Kalaratri Namostute. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sahasrike, Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Sristi Stiti Vinashanam Shakti Bhutte Sanatani Gunashraye Gunamaye Narayani Namostute. Sharanagatina Paritran Parayane Sarvasyati Haridevi Narayani Namostute. Kali Kali Mahakali Kali Deva Harini Dharma Kamprade Devi Narayani Namostute. Kali Kali Mahakali Kali Deva Harini Sarvanyare Devi Narayani Namostute. Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute. Jai Tvam Devi Chamunde, Jai Bhutati Harini, Jai Sarvagate Devi, Kalaratri Namostute. Jagadambe Mata Ki.
Keeping the eyes closed, breathing from the heart space. Calling upon the grace of the Great Mother, in whichever form she presents herself to you. Slowly, with awareness, let us bring the hands to Anjali Mudra, to a prayer in front of the heart. we offer the fruits of this humble devotional offering, this gathering of lovers, and our entire being at the feet of the Divine in all her forms, for the benefit of all. May we surrender more completely. And relax the hands. It is said that the practice of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, is the most easily accessible practice in the times we live in. And these are mysterious and tricky times, as we might be aware. And so when we chant these mantras, they really, truly go deep into our being. They go deep into our physical experience as a human being, as these mantras start resonating inside of us. But also they go deep into the unconscious mind. And so they stay there. They stay right there. And as we come to chant more and more and more, and as we go deeper into repetitions of these names of God, Goddess, Spirit, they also become more easily available, more easily accessible to us in the times we need them most. As one beautiful Bhakta said, practice while you can, you'll need it when you can't. And so we do. The first chant to open will be, as always, to Ganesh. We always chant to Ganesha first, the remover of obstacles, the one who opens the gates to the spiritual realms. And all these different deities we talk about, they're also very prominent archetypal images within our collective subconscious mind. And so when we chant to Ganesha, we tune into this capacity within us and within the universe to remove any obstacles of the way and open the way for the new to come. We'll be chanting a very simple chant, Ganesha Sharanam. Sharanam meaning take refuge. I take refuge in that capacity in myself and the universe to open the way for the new to come. To open the way for this practice, to open the heart so we may enter the spiritual realms. Ganesha Sharanam. Taking refuge being such an important and central topic in the devotional practice, also in the Buddhist practice actually. If you've engaged in Buddhist practice, you might know that the first thing to do is to take refuge in the Triple Gem. In the Buddha, the enlightened personality, the awakened one, in the Dharma, the path towards that awakening, and the Sangha, the community that supports us, that comes together on that path. It's so very important to remember, to cultivate that humbleness of taking refuge. Ganesha Sharanam.
There's also Om Gam Ganapataye,
Om
which is the Maha Mantra of Ganesha. We'll get to that eventually. Ganesha
Ganesha
Sarana
Om
Attention inside your body. Remaining completely present with what's going on the physical level. Your heartbeat, your muscles tingling. Energetic level. might sense a potential of some kind, maybe radiating outwards, the mental level, where you might observe some calmness or some equilibrium. Perhaps even something on the spiritual level. Sense of connection, expansion, transcendence. Mantra allowing us to connect to all those levels directly, effortlessly. And whatever is present, even if it's nothing, is completely valid, is completely appropriate, true, necessary, perfect, as it is. They say explaining bhakti to someone who doesn't know it is impossible. And explaining some bhakti to someone who does know it is unnecessary. So why explain it? And yet, I feel for anyone who comes into bhakti for the first time, having probably all kinds of questions and sensations and thoughts, and as some of you are here for the first time, maybe bhakti is new for some of you, and even if it's not, it's helpful to have a few pointers to actually get more out of the practice, to have a better experience, ultimately. If someone asks you that has never been to the sea, what is the ocean like? You could start explaining. Well, it's vast and it's wet and it's salty and it could be cold most of the time, right? And the person might be like, oh, okay, I get it, right? So do they understand the ocean now? We could spend hours trying to explain the ocean to someone and we will never succeed, right? So in order to really grok the ocean, you're just going to have to get inside. Even just looking at it is nice, gives you a certain level of perhaps even connection, but you will not possibly know the ocean, perhaps ever. But it will help to get into the ocean, won't it? In the same way, bhakti is impossible to explain, really. But the degree to which we engage with it makes all the difference. And at first we might be coming into it with the Western mind, like, what are all these mantras about? What does it mean? I'm not going to chant something that I don't understand, right? I need to know exactly what does this mean, what does it do, how does it work, and then maybe. And that's understandable, that's how we grew up, and it makes sense in this day and age to analyze and to hedge your bets, right? To look into it from different angles with the mind. We do this with everything, habitually. And it's good. But it will only be so useful when it comes to spiritual practice, and especially to something like bhakti, which is quite ineffable. indescribable. Like consciousness in itself, right? Even the scientists that have been looking into consciousness for thousands of years are struggling to describe it. Most people readily admit, even after decades of study, we don't understand consciousness. Just like we don't understand the sea. There's more mystery in the ocean, even today, than in any other part of the world. We know very little of what's going on down at the bottom of the ocean. The same is true for our own consciousness. We haven't the faintest idea of its potential, of its capacity, of its nature. But the cool thing about bhakti is we don't need to. We don't need to analyze and understand and intellectually explain. We just need to allow the mantra to do its thing, which means to repeat the mantra as many times as it takes. And realize that these mantras are not random, but they've been found, they've been discovered by sages, by yogis, by practitioners over thousands of years. And when they found such a sound that was useful, that was helpful for them to understand themselves better, to understand the universe better, they passed it down from teacher to student for our benefit. So instead of trying to analyze and understand, we invite you all to simply dive into the mantra, to allow the mantra to explain itself by keeping the eyes closed, keeping the attention inside, avoiding distractions of all kinds, and allowing the mantra to completely fill you. To let it be all there is in the present moment. And then all the questions, they may not be answered. That's not the purpose. Now, that's a common misunderstanding in spirituality, that it will answer our questions. Spirituality will not necessarily answer your questions. It will dissolve your questions, which is much better. So let's do this with Shiva. But before?
This reminds me of this story of Paul Brunton, who was this British journalist who went to India in the beginning of the 20th century, and he wrote afterwards this incredible novel, In Search of Secret India. So if you haven't read it, do read it. It is really beautiful. And so Paul Brunton, he was traveling around India looking for the real deal yogis at the beginning of the 20th century. So in this book he describes all his different encounters with great yogis and great masters. And then at some point he arrived at Arunachala mountain and he sat down in front of Sri Ramana Maharshi. And he was coming from the west. He had all these questions he wanted to understand. And so he sat down in front of this great awakened being, and there were no more questions. We'll be chanting to Shiva next.
This guy.
Right here. Yes, he's here and he's here and he's here. This is a really cute picture with a little bunny. Actually, he has a little bunny while he's reading his book. It's one of my favorite pictures of Sri Ramana Maharshi. And so we'll be chanting to Shiva next. This one is here on this whiteboard. We'll be chanting Om Namah Shivaya, the Maha Mantra, the great mantra of liberation of Shiva. And Shiva is really this archetypal image of pure consciousness, pure existence, pure presence. Then we'll be chanting Shivaya Namaha, bowing down to this pure consciousness. Shivaya Namaha, Shiva Shambho Shankara, calling upon different names, different qualities of Shiva as the auspicious one and the remover of doubt. Then we'll be chanting Hara 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 Mahadevaya. And Hara Hara is this really cool name of Shiva that for me it's always like this warrior call, right? Actually warriors in battle used to go in battle with like Hara Hara Mahadev. And so calling upon that really fierce quality of pure consciousness that is infinitely gracious, infinitely compassionate, and also just cutting through everything that is unnecessary. That is not presence.
Now somehow I forgot to write down the chords for this one, so let me just figure this out real quick. That's it. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Shivaya Namaha. Shivaya Namaha. Shiva Shambho Shankara. Hara Hara Mahadevaya. Shivaya.
Keeping the eyes closed, breathing from the heart space, witnessing the vibration of the mantra continuing to resonate throughout the body, within each and every cell of your being. Keeping the body as motionless as possible. Noting any internal movements. Allowing any distractions on the outside to be exactly what they are. Distractions on the outside. While remaining fully present, completely still in the heart space. Leaning into this silence, this inner silence that is always there. Birds don't brag about flying the way we do. They don't write books about it and then give workshops. They don't take on disciples and spoil their own airtime. Who could dance and achieve liftoff with a bunch of wackos tugging on you? It is so common. When we start practicing, we often develop attachments to these high spiritual concepts. Awakening, enlightenment. And this is so great and fine. However, we sooner or later find that if those high spiritual words are not grounded in this very humanness of our experience, we are in trouble. So we can say the spiritual path in a way is this coming full circle, going through the high spiritual topics and coming back to being human, right here, right now, in full acknowledgement, full humbleness of what this actually means. And so topics such as enlightenment, awakening, service, devotion, over the years and decades of practice, we may notice they change. What they mean to us changes. The depth of our immediate experience of those words changes. And everything is worth as much as we give meaning to it, right? Some practices are easier than others, and sometimes people are surprised when I say that for me the practice of Bhakti Yoga, the practice of Kirtan, is actually the most challenging practice. My personality is such that I can go away into a cave in silence in meditation for a year and this is easy. But actually showing up with my heart right here, together in prayers, over the years I have noticed this is the most challenging practice for me. And so I keep doing it for many years now because it works. Because this is my edge in regards of practice. And for you this will be different. For all of us it's different. Some people are more hermit oriented, like myself, and some people are more communal oriented, I guess. Life puts us exactly where we must be to learn most. So we used to run an ashram just up the road. That was a great experience. Half of you have been there, I believe, over the years, Mahadevi ashram. So that was interesting. Life puts put us in a situation in which we actually did communal living, full on, hardcore, all the time. It was fantastic. And then life changed. And now we live deep in the forest in Tuscany, and we invite select number of individuals to come over from time to time. So it's a very different environment. But it is incredibly mysterious and wonderful and humbling how life just puts us exactly where we're supposed to be. That doesn't mean we like it, we're just where we're supposed to be. So we learn most. On that note, public announcement. If you are going to Europe anytime soon, there is a fantastic opportunity to do some devotional service and helps us move the ashram library 2 books at a time. So I am now reaching out to everyone going over to Europe in the next 1 year time and being like, would you bring these 2 books to Europe, please? Anywhere in Europe works, we'll collect them from there. Because we used to have this beautiful spiritual library in the ashram. And so yes, if you might be going to Europe in the next year, come and let me know, please. And you're willing to bring a couple of books with you and get to read them on the way. We'll chant next to Divine Mother. And chanting to her, as I mentioned at the beginning, invoking Great Mother is really calling upon everything in the manifested world, right? And as much as we like to discriminate or we like to fantasize how some things are better than others, like this flower is more beautiful than this lighter, right? That's how we separate in the mind. That's how the mind functions through separation. At the end of the day, everything in the manifested is manifested by grace. It's equal. And so this is one of perhaps the hardest ones to kind of digest and integrate. So we'll be calling upon Great Mother as Kali, the fire of transformation, the Great Mother in one of her most fierce forms. So we'll be chanting Kali, Maha Kali, Great Kali, Devi, Para Shakti, the great energy that is beyond everything. So Kali, Maha Kali, Devi, Para Shakti. And Kali actually comes from Kala, it means time. And it is one of the most fierce forms of Divine Mother because time is perhaps the most scary thing in the human existence because it devours everything. It devours our life moment to moment to moment. And this is why it is so important to choose how we want our time to be spent, right? Coming together in prayer, coming together in practice, or sitting on your own in practice, in presence, in awareness. What can bring the most value to this human life, moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day? Prema.
Time aspect is really quite fascinating in the sense that Mother and Kali in this way are whatever is subject to time and are being destroyed eventually. Shiva, on the other hand, does not have that aspect. It's really what lies beyond time. And so it's not about better or worse or even different. As they say in the scriptures, Shiva is Shakti and Shakti is Shiva. And it may take a while to recognize that. But when we sing to either Shiva or Shakti, we potentially pass through into the Para level where we recognize that identity of time or no time. And this song kind of transports that in a different way than the previous one because Kirtan does mean ecstatic chanting. And so sometimes we go into this ecstatic, fast, high energy mechanism which kind of removes everything else and can blast us God knows where. While this song now is kind of calm and I would call it hypnotic. So if you allow it and you really just keep repeating it, you will find that there's some other energy unfolding. Forwards, Kali, Maha Kali, Devi, Parashakti. Shakti Kali, Maha Kali Devi, Maha Shakti Kali, Maha Kali Devi, Maha Shakti Kali, Maha Kali Devi, Maha
Keeping the eyes closed, breathing from the heart space. Slowly, with awareness, bring the hands over the heart, as if holding your heart. So gently, so softly. Coming to note each and every heartbeat. Deeply noticing life herself pulsing in your chest. Coming into the deep remembrance of what a great mystery this is. Being alive in this human body. Inquiring with your heart. How can you take a more soulful care of your heart in each moment? How can you bring the remembrance of the mystery to every single thing you do? How can you remember to relax because nothing is under control? Are you willing to trust life force? Willing to trust the great mystery of being alive? Deeply remembering that you could actually do that. That we are always safe, always taken care of. That life makes no mistakes. Even when it tosses an oddball our way. Breathing right there. With your heart. In the intimacy of this moment. Right there. If God invited you to a party and said, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, how would you then treat them when you arrive? Indeed, indeed. And Hafiz knows that there is no one in this world who is not standing upon his jeweled dance floor. Every body is the body of God, Goddess, Spirit. Every body is the body of the Guru. Our own body. Every single being we encounter is the same gracious consciousness unfolded into a multitude. And so then how would we treat anyone and everyone? How would we encounter every single being that comes our way? It's a standing inquiry for all of us, moment to moment, situation to situation, cultivating loving compassion, loving kindness, some of the great virtues that we can develop as human beings. Compassion towards ourselves, compassion towards all beings.
That's really one of the big differences between the East and the West as well, where in the West, when we look with modern eyes at religions, we might be inquiring, where is this God? I don't see any God, and my prayers have never been answered. As far as I'm concerned, there's no God. Which is ironic and hilarious from the Eastern perspective, because over there, everyone very deeply not just believes but embodies the notion that we have never ever looked at anything that is not God. Every person, everything we could possibly look at is the divine. And to somehow assume we've never seen the divine is a hilarious illusion. On that note, here comes Sri Krishna.
We have a couple of more chants for today. Entering the Vaishnava realm, chanting to Shri Radha, Sri Krishna, the divine couple, this beautiful, beautiful, intoxicating representation of the alchemical union between the lover and the beloved that blossoms in the heart space. And maybe just something very practical about mantra and chanting. Now, especially in these times, there's so much going on. There's so much going on also in the digital realms. So if one wanted to be immersed in mantra, there is these great opportunities to do so, like all the time. So what we do, for example, is every day we tune into a couple of live streams that add up to something like 6-7 hours of our day of chanting that are happening online, and so one can do this and be as immersed in bhakti, in devotion as possible.
So one of them is in Barcelona. He's called Jayadeva, and he sings every day for about an hour and then talks about scripture a little bit. Very wonderful. Really recommend it. Thanks to Gauri there, she turned me on to him. I had come across him before, but somehow, you know how this, things come our way and then maybe we forget and then maybe we come back to Jayadeva. And then there is Shyama Chaitan. Shyama is a friend of Krishna Das's actually. She also teaches some of his retreats and stuff. She's this older lady. She has this wonderful grandma energy. She's in New York. And she sings 11 Hanuman Chalisas every morning at 7. Wow. And it's live on her channel. So if you like the Chalisa as we do, tune in. At the moment she reads the Ramayana for 10 minutes and then she sings 11 Chalisas. Each of those takes 7 minutes, so it takes a while. And then she talks a little bit more, but it's really mostly practice. Yeah, if you want to re-grandparent yourself, she's a good candidate for this. And then there is someone called Kishori Mohan, a Krishna devotee who broadcasts on the channel of his wife, Sudevi Devi Dasi. So you actually have to look for Sudevi Devi Dasi. And I think at the moment they're sick, they might have COVID actually. But every morning they chant for 3 hours, every single day.
Straight from Vrindavan.
And they sing these traditional bhajans, which in the West we usually don't know. And there's hundreds of them. But he's from the States actually. So they are all to Krishna and Radha, of course. So if you want to really immerse yourself in that energy every day, this is a good option as well. They sing and then they talk, they sing, and I personally don't listen to the talking too much. I usually skip to just the chants. Up to you. But of those 3 hours, I would say half is chanting and half is talking. So it's a little quicker if you skip the talking as well. I don't find it particularly useful. But the chanting is just wonderful. It's just amazing. And it's not really to sing along. It's really all in Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, all these Indian languages, and he just plays the drum with the chanting. But it's so profound, really. There's something very sublime in this. So try it out. Maybe it works for you, maybe not. So these 3.
So the next chant is on the board. To what degree you see the board? Well, yeah. We'll be chanting Govinda Radhe, Govinda Radhe, Govinda Govinda, Gopala Radhe. Govinda and Gopala being names of Shri Krishna. And then we'll be chanting Bhakta Vatsala Tuma Mama Priya, Govinda Govinda, Gopala Radhe. And then we'll chant Bhakta Vatsala Bhagavata Priya, Govinda Govinda, Gopala Radhe.
So that's a bhajan, there's a devotional song. So.
Maybe I can move these words between us or something. And then maybe you'll see the lyrics a little better. And let's see how to do this. There we go, something like that. Oh.
Each of these words invoking a certain quality of Krishna consciousness. And Sri Radhe, the Prem Guru of Krishna.
Breathing from heart space. Witnessing the sweet flames of Sri Radha Krishna continuing to resonate in the innermost chambers of the heart. Calling forth this exquisite union between the lover and the beloved. This exquisite inner marriage, erogamous, between our very humanness and our divinity that takes place within the heart, first and foremost. Resting right there for a moment. And the remembrance that any union, any meeting, any encounter we seek on the outside is only a reflection of this sacred union our heart is longing for. Union between all parts of the spectrum of our human divine experience. The Bhakti path wins in a delicate way. On this path, there is no asking and no not asking. The ego simply disappears the moment you touch him. The joy of looking for him is so immense that you just dive in and coast around like a fish in the water. If anyone needs a head, the lover leaps up to offer his. These poems touch the secrets of this bhakti, of this devotion. When we come together in devotional practice, we often say how service and devotion are the two sides of the same coin. Once we cultivate devotion, there is just nothing left but really wanting to be of service in whichever capacity we can be of service. And if we do embark on the path of service, we do eventually come into deep, humble devotion towards whatever we are serving. So these two, devotion and service, are not separate at all. They're so intertwined together. As we said, they really manifest in our lives in different ways and different capacities. And one of the tangible ways, when we cultivate devotion to then really exercise it as service, is to give back, right? To cultivate that generosity of the heart, that generosity of giving. And so, as you know, every time when we come together to chant, either all the donations or the contributions go towards educational and beautiful project that is here, local, important, or some part of these contributions go towards that. So we wanted to take this opportunity to express our gratitude for everyone contributing from their heart, turning that devotion, that practice into like a tangible service, and in the case of today, supporting a beautiful charitable project, the Integral Heart Family Foundation, that works with underprivileged Guatemalan children and provides education. So thank you all so much, and if you arrived late and you haven't contributed, there is a plate outside. Be welcome to contribute generously towards this beautiful project. There's so many opportunities to give back, to serve people, to feed people, to provide education, so many other important things. We have one more chant for today. We have this tendency, we kind of like to finish with the Maha Mantra. It's not a tendency, it's more like our heart's desire, usually during Kirtan, is to finish with the Maha Mantra. And so we'll chant the Maha Mantra of Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this mantra is called a Maha Mantra because it is said that this is all that is needed. And a lot of yogis, a lot of bhakti yogis are really focusing the entirety of their practice in the continuous repetition of the Maha Mantra exclusively. So this will mean thousands and thousands and thousands of repetitions per day, fully immersing themselves in this particular prayer. I want this back. And now Arjuna wants to sing a Maha Mantra that has a few different melodies.
Three.
Three different melodies today. It's one of his latest favorites, Maha Mantras. So watch out for the three different melodies.
We'll sing each melody twice.
Right.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna
Keeping the eyes closed, breathing from the heart, resting in the direct, immediate experience of this moment, exactly as it is. Resting in this perfectly imperfect human experience. God and I have become like two giant fat people living in a tiny boat. We keep bumping into each other and laughing. When we engage with any action in the world, especially when we engage with what we like to call spiritual practice, even though everything is spiritual practice, right? But when we engage with the formal spiritual practice, sadhana, it is very crucial, very important, detrimental, to remember that we are not doing so to gain anything, we are not doing so to feel better about ourselves in any way. We are doing so to completely lose ourselves in presence, to completely lose ourselves in love to our best capacity. So this practice, this being human, can hopefully serve the benefit of all, the liberation of suffering of all beings. So we'll close today, as always, with the closing prayers. You'll find those again on these sheets of paper around. And the purpose of these prayers is indeed to share the merits, the benefits of the practice. So it touches the hearts of all beings, it serves the liberation of all beings. Also the beings building houses in Sumama right now, all around. All beings. We'll chant the first prayer 3 times, and then the rest. You're welcome to bring the hands to prayer in front of the heart. May all beings be happy and well. May all beings be safe and nourished. May all beings be liberated from their suffering, whatever that suffering might be.